I am Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And we're paranormal specialists who live in the most haunted city on earth, Savannah, Georgia. Every day is Halloween in our line of work, so join us as we spin true tales of haunts, murders, and disturbing Savannah history. I'm Madison.
I'm Chris.
And welcome to the most haunted city on earth.
Hello, and welcome back to...
That's okay. Well played.
Yes. Hello, and welcome back to another episode of The Most Haunted City on Earth. My name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susie.
And I'm JT Timmons.
And we are back from our various travels. JT and I just filmed some Parajunkie exclusives up in Asheville, and Chris was up in Montreal doing Canadian things.
Bonjour.
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 And so we are finally back in no longer in our pre-filmed episode era. So,
Yep.
But that does mean we do have quite a few announcements. So, JT, do you want to go ahead and start that out?
For sure. First, I would like to thank all the new Parajunkies who have joined the Parajunkie family. I would love to thank, let's see. I'm going to start back a couple weeks ago. I would love to thank George Gay, Eric Withers, Stephanie, Kate Wilkerson, Ricky Ticky, Tavi, Madison Schroeder, Meg Laster, Eduardo Ortega, John Stevens, Tiffany Canetta, Brittany Jennings, Philip Dumas, Heidi Bullock, Alexis Limke, and Carilli Johnson, who joined 5 hours ago.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of Parajunkies.
We are growing this Parajunkie family, and absolutely for zero ads and much more, come on over, be a Parajunkie.
And they also got lots of fun live streams while we were in Asheville. They got to watch a entity try to tell me to jump off a bridge, so that was fun. Alive, they got to see that. So yeah, we did Helen's Bridge twice. It was supposed to only be one episode, but it ended up being an Estes method and the episode because it was just very active. So
it was extremely active, and so we were like, we got to come back and do a live. And if you want to see that, you can just go down. You can become a Parajunkie, go down the feed, and you can watch it back because YouTube Live saves it all.
Yep.
Nice.
Which is pretty cool.
Absolutely. And also, we do have one big announcement, though.
Yeah, two big announcements.
Two big announcements.
Yeah, two big announcements.
Yes, before we get into the ghost mail, I promise we will get into the ghost mail. But we actually are officially able to announce that we won Connect Savannah's Best Podcast. So the first ghost podcast to ever win that category. So that's pretty exciting. Yeah.
Surprising, though, being Savannah.
Right?
Yeah.
I know, right? You would think.
You would think.
But
so we wanted to say thank you guys to those who voted.
Yes, thank you so
much.
much.
Really appreciate it because y'all really came through. I know Ashley Warner was out there corralling the troops to vote. So
yes.
But yes, thank you guys so much for voting. We really appreciate it, and we will send you lots of photos from our gala that is on Thursday. Mm-hmm. But yes,
and Savannah Underground also won Best Theater.
Yes, and JT won Best Director.
Thanks.
So, yeah.
Yep. So cool. All right. Just a really quick announcement. Our second big announcement is that the head of tourism from Washington, Georgia, hit us up and wants us to come and kind of do a little bit of an investigation in their town, which is really exciting. And so we are going to be doing that when, Chris?
June
4th, 5th, and
6th. God, I keep saying the 3rd to the 5th. I don't know.
There's a chance.
4th,
and I'll have to double check, but I think I have done a ghost hunt in Washington.
What? Interesting.
In the hotel.
No way.
In that hotel. So
wow.
I'll have to do a little research, but I'm realizing I stayed in a hotel, and it was in a town in Georgia that I wasn't really overly familiar with. Oh. And it was like a grand old hotel, and in my hotel room, it had huge vaulted ceilings, really tall ceilings, and up in the corner of the ceiling on the wall was a door.
Ooh.
And it was like at least 12 feet to get to the door. And it was like, why is there a door? What is that door? Why is there a door?
What's
What
going
door?
on?
Why?
Why
Why door? Why?
Why door? Why?
Why door? Why?
Yeah, so we are going to be staying in the Fitzpatrick Hotel. We're going to be telling, we're going to be mainly telling the story of the ghosts and the history of the town, and then I might set up some live stream. We'll do a live, and it's just going to be super chill and fun, and we're going to have a great time. So definitely become a Para Junkie to experience that.
We also owe the Para Junkies an overnight.
Oh, that's right. We passed 100.
Here,
We do.
So.
Now we're well past 100 now. So
Yes.
yeah, we definitely do. Overnight is in like I got to stay up all night because I get tired at 10.
Did we have one coming up at Agatha's?
Yes, we do.
Is that still
Yeah.
happening?
Oh gosh. Yes. That is
We have a-
another
we have a
announcement.
lot going on,
Yo, we
y'all.
got so much going on. Like but in the next
That's
couple
like
months,
this week,
we're gonna be
isn't it?
bringing you Hawaii
22nd. So
of
next Monday.
exclusives. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So next Monday we are going to be doing an investigation. I will most likely be going live there. It's kind of like exhilarating going live. I've never done it a lot, but
He's like, it's enthralling.
it's enthralling.
We're live on the internet.
Yes. All right. And let me go to real fast. I want to go ahead and do the comment on the week. This is on the episode that dropped actually today. I thought this was really, really interesting. And it is from Angela Holt Designs. She commented on YouTube, I am from Adams, Tennessee. I got married at the church across from the Bell Witch Cemetery. Oh yeah. Family is buried there. Went to school at the local school, etc., and I will never, ever visit the cave again. The photos, the feelings, the whole atmosphere surrounding the true story litters that entire one-stop light town. There are just some things that cannot be coincidences. Never again. I moved an hour away from that place.
Wow.
Woo! So
I love it.
I love it.
Thrilling.
I know. It's like honestly, when we started this show, I had such a narrow understanding of the paranormal, and now through all of the people that comment on YouTube, because I read everything, comment on YouTube, talk on TikTok, and tell their ghost stories via Ghostmail. I'm just like learning so much. And I just love seeing the different perspectives and whatnot. So that's really cool.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Chris, do you have a ghost story that you brought back from Canada?
So yeah, when my wife and I were looking for a place, we were originally going to go to Europe, but then we was like, I don't know if we want to spend that much time on a plane. So we did the next best thing. We went to French Canada. We went into Montreal, and then we went up into Quebec City. And in Quebec City, we stayed at a literal castle. This thing was stupid gigantic, and we had no real idea. Like I want to say TikTok was like, if you go to Quebec City, you should go here. And I was like, okay, and we looked it up, and it was reasonably priced, and we're like, sure. They put us in the tippity top attic. Like you could not go any further up. Yes, we were.
He sent the photo. You remember?
We were
It was
in
literally-
the attic of this, and so much so that it broke my wife's mind that we were in the attic, because every time we were down on the ground, she's like, it's impossible, because when you look up, it's like, there's no way we're in that room, because it's literally like, that's where you put the princess. That's
Which Megan is.
Yeah, exactly.
Megan is the princess.
Megan is the princess.
So we're staying in this, and anybody who's listening to this knows my theory on attics and basements. But we're there, and it's like, well, what's the haunts of this place? And they're like, oh yeah, you're in the most haunted building in Quebec City. I was like, oh good. Tell me. So Quebec City was a fortified city. We're sitting right above the original grounds of the chateau, which that's the name of it, Chateau Frontenac. Frontenac was the name of the very first governor, Comte de Frontenac. So Comte de Frontenac was the governor there, and the story they tell, highly suspect this is not a true story, but, and I'll tell you why. But people see this kind of cavalier guy from the 1700s, 17th century. From the 17th century, moving around with his big feather hat and his sword, and, he hangs out in the ballroom, but he really has full, reign over the entire 600 room castle. And people see him and they interact with him, and he seems like a charming enough fellow. But the story is that on his deathbed, he wanted to send his lover, some people say fiance, some people say lover, in France, his heart, his literal heart.
Oh,
he
I love that.
requested that they
So
cut it
emo.
out of him.
It's so emo.
So they pull his heart out, put it in an
Yes.
ornate box, and send it to
Yes.
France. It gets to France, and surprise, surprise, lady don't want it. Lady's like, ew. And I don't know that she was ew or if it was she was so heartbroken. And plus, I have to imagine two things. Thing one, it couldn't have smelled good.
True.
Well, yeah.
Thing two, it's a human heart. You open it up, you see just this lump of organ,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Bull." No, thank you. So apparently, we don't know what happened to the heart after that.
She probably put it in her chamber.
She sent it back.
She said
But
return to sender.
Basically, she sent it back.
She's like, I don't want this.
But we don't know where it ended up.
Oh my gosh.
But
Probably in
they
the
say
trash.
that he's wandering the halls looking for his lost love. Wow. The problem was he was married, and his wife lived at the chateau, and so that was slightly conflicting. He was also 90 years old, so it didn't seem like his love interest would necessarily have been as all passionate as that. But it was an interesting story.
I love
and
it.
it was one that people love to tell, is that the Comte de Frontenac still haunts these halls, still wanders around the halls.
Wow.
It also, this castle has a woman ghost, a woman in white, of course.
Always.
Who will climb into bed with men. And for anybody who's a Savannah ghost story fan will know that the 1790 has a ghost that does exactly that. Will be very flirty and climb into bed with men as they're trying to fall asleep. So I found that interesting. That's just one of those brand stories. The female ghost that climbs into bed with you, and then the very odd story of this. He looked like a musketeer. He had the big hat with the feather, the sword, and he was very dashing in all the pictures. Because they were, of course, pictures of him when he was in his
25.
youth. Yeah, when he was very heroic. Ha-ha! Bonjour! And so, and intriguingly enough, the grounds are on top of his original chateau. So, like, his chateau had been demolished. But all over the grounds, they have these windows looking into the ground. And you can see the original rooms and original the kitchen and all these things. So they kept the archive of his home, and the bottom floor of the hotel is full of plateware and cannonballs and all these things that they recovered from the site as they were building this ginormous hotel.
Wow. I love that story. Yeah. Madison, you know what I'm going to do now when I die.
You're not going to cut your heart out and send it to me. Listen,
you're getting my heart. You're getting my heart.
It's a lot harder to convince people to go along with plans like that.
I love it.
You need a shady friend who's like, no problem, boss.
Listen.
Yeah, well, if you put it in your will, they'll most likely do it, right?
No.
It's illegal.
That's not.
So
it's absolutely illegal.
It's my heart, and I say where it goes. And
You're
it's going to my wife.
When you die, it is no longer your heart. You don't get to claim any ownership over anything because you're dead.
Well, my words.
and, it's funny because I actually saw on TikTok this girl, I think yesterday, she said, if I don't find a lover who, if he betrays me after he proposes, he has to take the dagger that he proposed to me with, cut out his heart, and send it to me in an ornate box. I think it's fascinating that you just brought this up. Because
that is interesting.
That is.
Yes. And I was like, there's people who want this, and maybe she should have married, or maybe she's the woman reincarnated. You
Maybe.
never know.
Or who knows? It's very difficult to tell because that kind of romanticism, that level of romanticism, I want you to have my heart. It's like, No. Write me a nice letter.
I don't
write
know.
a lovely letter.
That's my style.
That's too emo. That's a little too emo for me.
It's gross, man. It's gross.
Yeah. Well, if you haven't,
smells terrible.
Listen. If you are listening to this podcast right now, I want you to go on Amazon and I want you to buy Sarah Kane's Complete Works. If you enjoyed that story, you need to do that because she's my hero, and that's exactly her.
She's
style.
all about sending people body parts.
Well, I mean,
she would also be about
by
that.
the time you're done, I want you to email Ghostmail and just tell me what you thought of A's monologue. That's all I want. All right, here we go.
Oh, Jinkies.
Jinkies is right.
Indeed.
Okay, here we go. All right, this is from Ryan Davis. Ryan, he says, alrighty, so this is going to be long, so I hope that it will be okay. This isn't just one story. This is every ghostly experience I've had from start to present time. Wow. And I will say, y'all, that he sent in 6 stories. And just to kind of like keep up with all the ghost mail, I'm going to be breaking those up throughout episodes. So I'm going to do the first 2. Okay? All right. Very short backstory because it will explain some points. I was raised by my grandmother. My mother was/is still in my life, but yeah. Oh, I'm from Fredericksburg, Virginia. Hint some of my experiences, haha. So here we go. Number 1, my earliest memory was, goodness, I don't even know how old I was, but I remember I was still in a crib or maybe a toddler type bed. I must have been maybe 2-ish. Anyways, I remember waking up. My door was open and I saw a figure at my doorway. Then it entered my room, and it had clothing on like a clown.
Yeah. I mean,
He's like, delightful.
But the face was a man with no makeup on, but had the most evilish glare and smile. Then I started screaming and crying. My grandmother and mom ran in, picked me up, and cuddled me. I remember pointing at my door, saying, "Bad man." Years later, I must have been 10. I was going through my mom's wedding book. By the way, I've never met my real father nor saw a picture of him. He ran out on my mom before I was born. When I got to a picture of my mom and my father, I stopped. I remember that exact moment when I was 2-ish and realized that was the face of the clown. So I'm thinking this father. I asked my grandmother and mom if they remembered that, and they both said, "Yep, sure do." They said that I keep saying "bad man" and pointing at the door, and I was hysterical. What is that, and how could it be? I still think of that and how creepy it is. That's story number 1 of his.
It's amazing. Well, the first question,
frightening,
I think, comes down to whether or not your father was dead at the point of that of that vision, because a person doesn't necessarily have to be dead to haunt a place. Especially a high traumatic experience or high traumatic emotional responsiveness to it. If he had passed, he very well could be straight up haunting. The clown outfit raises questions because a clown outfit, and I almost want to say that I don't even like diving into this notion, but I think there is a shape-changing spirit that its natural form. Well, I guess that's where it kind of comes into play. Right. It's a clown, but it can change his face.
Yeah.
Because that whole concept of changing your face is a very clownish thing. So I don't know where to steer you one way or the other, except to say, if you had seen the face in your early childhood before your memories were really solidified, it's possible that your mind was able to furnish a spirit with a face, one that caused trauma to your family. It may not have been the spirit of your father as much as it had been a parasitic entity rifling through your brain for a look that would elicit the right response.
That's kind of where my brain goes, because, I mean, I know that you said that your dad left before, like, you could even remember anything, but It very well could have been. If your dad has that like creepy of a face, it's
Just stick out.
it does stick with a person.
I think that it wasn't his dad at all, and I think that demons are investors. I think that they are so malicious that they're like on the Ted Bundy maliciousness. And what I mean by that is like they go further than what the average person can even think of doing. And I think that potentially that was an investment. I think that was a moment where I'm like, this is going to, I'm like, the demon's like, this is going to burn itself into your mind, and years from now, I don't know when you're going to know that your dad, it's going to pay off so good. And I think that's what that was. I think it was investing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, those demon scare stock exchanges.
I don't know. That's what I think is
interesting, though.
I think they're on that level of maliciousness that we aren't able to even. A lot of people, some people can obviously because they're horrible, but that we
the
can't
average
even,
person,
the average person like us, we're not going to be able to understand it. All right, here we go. Story number 2. Let me get a swig of water, wet my whistle. My mom and stepdad moved to a place that used to be a Confederate campsite right outside of Chancellorsville Battlefield. I was about 6 years old. I was sleeping in my room and I was woken up suddenly by what I felt like something falling on the end of my bed. Then I literally felt like it was someone was just jumping on my bed. I did what probably all kids do, and I buried my head in the pillow and pulled my sheets over my head. It wouldn't stop, so I ran into my mom's bedroom and got in bed with her. I finally fell asleep. Then I woke up. I was a little confused because I thought my mom was still in bed with me because I was cuddling my mom. Then actually, I opened my eyes and my arm was suspended in the air, and there was an impression as someone was laying there. I got up as quick as I could and ran into the kitchen where my mom was cooking breakfast. Next time I came to visit her, I wanted to sleep in the living room because of everything that happened. My mom and stepdad went to bed, and then I fell asleep on the couch. It must have been midnight, and I was woken up by someone crying. I opened my eyes to a lady in white. Lady in a white gown. Yep. Why does this happen?
The themes,
I swear,
are starting already.
Literally. Wow. Looked to be a vintage-looking wedding dress, sitting on the couch across from me crying, and a man standing next to her looked to be comforting this lady. I closed my eyes, threw the covers over my head, and hummed something until I fell asleep again. I honestly never came back again while they lived there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Creepy stories.
Very creepy. The theme of the lady in white seems to be what we're going to go.
Climbing into bed.
Yep. Yeah, climbing into bed. Well,
unbelievable.
It sounds almost like, it sounds a little bit like, not necessarily a residual haunting, but in that realm of, you might have just been catching a moment.
The witnessing. Yeah. What was seen definitely sounds like a residual haunting. Mm-hmm. What was felt and experienced definitely sounded like an intelligent haunt. Like
right.
it was definitely trying to achieve something specific. And this is odd, and no offense to you, Ryan. Are we sure Ryan's a boy?
Yes.
Okay. Just making sure because
he called himself a he.
Oh yeah. Making sure. Only because I've heard this story a few times, but every time it had been a girl.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
Oh.
The being in bed and cuddling with a parent figure, I've heard, I want to say at least 3 times.
Wow.
But it was always a girl who was telling me the story.
Wow.
Huh.
Okay. Well, that's super creepy. Ryan, you should watch Grave Dancers if you haven't already.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry. Okay. Here we go. I'm not sorry. All right.
Before history is written, it's played. Before it's frozen in time, it's fought one shift at a time. Before it's etched in silver, it's carved in ice. What happens next will last forever. The Stanley Cup Final on ABC and ESPN Plus begins Saturday.
This is from Sarah Tremblay. We have, she is titled it Ghostmail and Hometown Haunting. This is actually a good time to kind of announce our next segment. It's called Hometown Hauntings. She sent this in because she's a parajunkie, and we are doing a segment where we're asking parajunkies to send in their hometown hauntings, like the most famous or they're just whatever they want about their hometown specifically. So we just thought that would be a really cool thing, and then we're going to do them publicly. We're going to do the episode publicly. We haven't gotten enough yet to do a couple episodes, so I'm letting them pile up. So I won't read the hometown haunting, but Ghostmail, here we go. All right. Hello. I apologize in advance if this is super wordy email. If I am anything in this life, it is not concise. I have a ghost story and a hometown haunting. I have a few, actually. I have generational Salem, Massachusetts roots through my mom's side, straight from our ancestors, came over from Poland, and my mom has some downright crazy stories, including a pretty gnarly haunting of her ex-boyfriend's apartment that she still points out every time I drive with her into the city. So,
wow.
Yeah, man, we should have your mom on the podcast.
Right?
We could do that. All right. The first ghost story I want to share with you is the one that generally gives everyone I have told it to the heebie-jeebies and really upset my folks when I was a child. You'll understand why in a second, and yes, I do feel very badly about it now as an adult and have apologized for it because it's a trigger warning for infant loss.
Oh, no.
So, when I was a child, I had a recurring dream that stayed with me until I was in middle school and was gone by the time I entered high school. The dreams were almost identical. In them, I would be approached by a boy who was always a few years older than me. Often he'd be crying and repeating something along the lines of, "My sister, I've missed you. I've been wanting to meet you." I say almost identical because there would always be one very specific change. The boy who called me his sister would age up with me, always staying a few years older than me, like he was growing up with me. I can't really remember much else we discussed, if anything, but I was always left with this lingering feeling after I woke up that I wasn't actually the eldest child of the family. I don't know how else to describe it. I never really felt like I fit in. I've been sensitive to spirits for as long as I can remember, and my mom's told me some downright harrowing things that made me think at one point in my toddler years I was possessed, like quoting what the doctor said at the hospital during my traumatic birth. I was a creepy kid. Ditto.
Understood.
But I always felt like the middle child, and it used to actually make me upset to be called the oldest by my family. I vividly remember at one point in my childhood asking my mother, point blank, insert cringe here, "Where is my older brother? If you gave him up, I'm not upset with you, but I'd like to meet him. He's come to me in dreams, and he feels real, and I want to see him." I remember the look of abject horror on my mother's face and how upset my father was when she told him, and he scolded me to never ask her that again, that I had no brother and I needed to drop it. Now, here's where there's a surprising plot twist. I had largely forgotten about the dreams and the search for the older brother that no one spoke of by the time I was in college. I was in a pretty unhealthy relationship situation at the time, and one day my father called and said he was in town and wanted to meet for lunch. My stomach dropped because he seemed so serious. I initially assumed the worst, that someone in my family had passed. I was half right-ish. He proceeded to disclose over lunch that he was married before my mother, and the relationship had dissolved after losing their first child. I had heard whispers among the family, and my mother's wish of having a son never came true, and never coming true was a curse of some kind. Let me go ahead and restart that one. I had heard whispers among the family that my father's wish of having a son never coming true was a curse of some kind. Catholic family doesn't believe in divorce. I'm guessing it's a source of such belief. And suddenly, all the memories of my recurring dreams came rushing back. He never confirmed the gender of the child lost, but I had this sick feeling in my stomach that it was the brother that came to see me in my dreams, that in a sense grew up beside me, either because I believed in him so fiercely he got stuck, and he wanted so badly to have lived, and he stayed. Maybe because of my traumatic birth and almost dying. He was waiting around to help me cross to the other side, but I survived, and he got stuck. Perhaps I no longer see him because he's finally let go and moved on. I'm not really sure. But have you ever heard of something like this happening? A deceased half-sibling reaching out to the family they never had. I'd be interested to know if I'm not the only one and what your thoughts are on this. I've also had dreams that become very intense deja vu moments or outright come true. And I've had other experiences with deceased family, in particular my maternal grandfather, who I believe is one of my guardian spirits. So maybe this is just how my personal sensitivity developed from childhood until now. I truly have no idea. I just kind of roll with the experiences. It adds a little spice to my life in the if I don't laugh, I'll cry kind of way, LOL.
Sure. You know, it's not the first time I've ever heard of a child who didn't make it to birth coming back and visiting, because when you get to that level, you know, and a lot of people have the belief that the spirit, the child's soul, if you will, chooses where they go.
Sure.
And so you hear this a lot with people who lose a child right after birth or whatnot, and they'll have them come visit you in your dreams. A lot of times dreams are when people are the most susceptible and most open to encountering it. So it doesn't surprise me that this would happen. You know, that your brother might have been trying to almost feel like he had an opportunity to live by living vicariously through you. And that's why you were still seeing it grow with you, because you were giving him that attention. You knew that he was your brother, and you knew he was your older brother. So when we start attributing these things to a spirit, they're going to take them on. And so it makes sense. You're not crazy is basically what I'm saying.
No.
You know, it's not an uncommon thing.
We've heard of infant death leading to spirits that grow and age. That is not an uncommon story. People have stated that they'd heard that. There's a belief that before coming to this plane of existence through birth, that we make decisions. We choose where we're going to come, and like you said, we even know that death might be, you know, in utero or shortly after birth, but your purpose, your function in inhabiting that life are lessons that you can learn and lessons that you impart upon the environment around you. You are fulfilling a need. And sometimes that spiritual need does extend past the life that you have on this plane. You can stay and continue to grow and learn in spirit form. And, you know, that is a type. I think there's a book called Many Masters, Many Servants. And that is about the idea of how our souls continue to learn regardless of our physical ability, or, you know, because we continue on in the spiritual form with a pattern of learning and a pattern of growth. And it's possible that the purpose of your brother was to help prepare you for a life of seeing and feeling and being present. Perhaps an intermediary guide until your paternal or maternal father, grandfather passed to become your true spirit guide. There's a lot of possibilities as to what would furnish a spirit's time and why they would come to you. And why they would grow, why you would see them and they would be older, because they are growing with you through your experiences, and not just vicariously. They are beside you, taking in everything with that 2-year head start.
Absolutely. And also in the regard that you had such a traumatic birth, and how you almost passed, that happens a lot with people. When they have near-death experiences, they suddenly become more psychically attuned, and it makes sense, especially because you were not yet affected by your environment, that it would be hyper present in your personality, in your life, if you had that moment. So it's not surprising that you have all these paranormal experiences now, especially because you've had your entire life to accept it and grow with it. So if anything, it is only going to get stronger with time. Sure. But yeah, it's and don't apologize, for being upfront about these experiences, because they are important to you. And sometimes paranormal experiences can be hard for people, especially when it involves loved ones who have passed and things like that. But you were a child; you had no idea at that point what was going on. It's not harmful to ask questions as a child. Oh. Just sometimes people react. Yeah. It just is what it is. But it is a special type of paranormal experience to be able to have those types of bonds with a sibling you never got to meet. So,
yep.
Yeah. You hear it a lot with twins, especially.
Twins. You hear that a lot, yeah.
With twins that one passes in the womb and the other lives on, where they'll still experience their twin and things like that. Or, even before they become fully formed in the womb, people will say oh, I had a twin, or things like that. So, it's like I said, it's not uncommon. So, but it is special for sure.
Absolutely. All right. Love that. And the hometown haunting, that'll be featured on the first episode that we do with that. All right. So this next story is from actually one of our newer Parajunkies, Ricky Ticky, Rakisha. And let's see, it is titled Creepy Stuff That Has Happened in My Life.
Oh, boy.
Ooh.
When you need mealtime inspiration, it's worth shopping Kroger, where you'll find over 30,000 mouth-watering choices that excite your inner foodie. And no matter what tasty choice you make, you'll enjoy our everyday low prices, plus extra ways to save, like digital coupons worth over $600 each week. You can also save up to $1 off per gallon at the pump with fuel points. More savings and more inspiring flavors make shopping Kroger worth it every time. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Fuel restrictions apply.
All right, let's get into it. First off, let me say how much I love you guys and the show. Thank you.
Thank you.
We love you too.
Yes, same. So the first story is short, but really weird. This happened in 2006. Me and my at the time boyfriend moved into our first apartment. We were 19 and excited to be out on our town. I always felt weird vibes when I would be home. It always sounded like someone was in the bathroom, and when I would go check, no one would be there. Then, out of nowhere, the toilet started flushing on its own. Whoa, that's weird. And I knew it was flushing because whenever I would go and check, I would see the water filling back up in it. Then one day, I was in the bedroom sleeping when my boyfriend rushed in the room and asked me, did I just walk past the kitchen? Asked me, did I just walk past the kitchen? And I said, no. He said that he was looking down, washing dishes, and he saw a shadow figure walk past the kitchen towards the bedroom where I was. We both were freaked out about it, but nothing ever happened after that. Fast forward to 2011, and me, my cousin, and her boyfriend were sharing a house together, and it always felt creepy to all of us. The heat would never work. Like, it was literally always cold. The landlord had to send someone out on 4 to 5 different occasions to fix it, and it would work for a day or less, then it would go back out. There was another time when one of my friends came over and it was late and we were all asleep, and she got up to go to the bathroom, and when she came out, she went to everyone's room and asked, were we at the bathroom door, because she saw someone peeking through the crack of the door. Side note, the bathroom door didn't close all the way because it was closed enough to have privacy. But it was close enough to have privacy. We all told her no and was kind of freaked out about it, because all of our friends would never sleep in the room by the bathroom, and they were so scared to where they would sleep in the room with us. We called one of my cousins who was sensitive to the paranormal, and she said that it may be something attached to the house or to one of us. We eventually moved from there, and nothing else happened. Fast forward to 2022, and my youngest son was sleeping in the bed with me, and my boyfriend came over at like 6 in the morning, and we were just talking. My son woke up and saw my boyfriend there, and he asked him why he was just standing in the door watching me and him sleep. My boyfriend looked confused and said that he hadn't been here until now. My son proceeded to say that he saw someone standing in the doorway in all black, just staring at us, and that he couldn't move or talk to wake me up, but he was trying to. Mind you, at the time my son was only 5 or 6, and it sounds like he was having sleep paralysis, and that wasn't the first time he said that happened to him. He also used to talk to my dad, who passed when I was 7. So he never met him. He only seen pictures of him. This was when he was like 2 to 3, and he would be talking in a dark room. And when we asked who he was talking to, he would say, "Papa." What does any of this mean? I've had a few other instances where I would feel or hear something or someone in the room with me at night, but when I looked, I never saw anything. Sorry for the long email, but I finally have somewhere where I can talk about it without sounding crazy, LOL.
Sure.
No, you definitely don't sound crazy.
No.
You definitely don't sound crazy. And I actually love this, because to me, for a kid, I've never heard of a kid having sleep paralysis.
Yeah.
So to me, whenever I talk to people about hags, and all of that, they're like, they might mention sleep paralysis, but they're like, I don't see the hag. I just have sleep paralysis. And this just proves, because it's from the mouth of babes, that this kid saw the hag. Mm-hmm. I mean, an adult could be lying. Kids don't lie like that. Yeah. So, and especially something that specific.
The thing about like seeing a figure under sleep paralysis is that you are subject to the interpretation of what's around you, because a lot of people will suggest that that seeing a figure is a part of the panic setting in, a type of paranoia that gets set off in your mind that allows you to make shapes, to make things, to basically be in a waking dream-like state. But either way, what it sounds like is it Ricky?
Yep, Ricky Tiki.
Seems like a sort of a nexus point. It's likely that you, and then by extension anyone who is around you,
right,
is going to have these events and these experiences, and it's not terribly abnormal, but it seems to be a question of a heightened sensitivity on your part, and then a series of locations that had some juju to them,
right?
And when you combine those things, it can, and of course, hereditary, it will pass, to your children. So it's interesting because there's almost a textbook sensation to it.
Yes.
Which is that you are resonating at a level that allows spirits to have more presence, more ability to show themselves. Because if it was just in one location, you could say that location has a very strong spirit, but the fact that it seems to follow you around
Right.
Suggests that it's probably you just have an amplifying effect on supernatural energy around you, and it allows family members or people close to you to also witness and see it because you're amplifying.
Right. I was thinking the same thing, but also I completely agree about the hereditary thing. I mean, you said that you have a cousin, I believe is what they said, was who was spiritually inclined and things like that. So clearly it runs in your family in a way. So it just, you all might have different types of abilities.
Right.
Especially since your child is having encounters, which isn't uncommon for children to have paranormal encounters. So maybe as he gets older, you'll see how those develop. But, it makes sense that it would be you just naturally attract the spirits, or because it doesn't sound like anything super overtly negative.
No.
It's just, they're just being a little rambunctious around you,
Yes.
which can happen.
Although, for fear of evoking his name, it definitely sounded like a Hat Man scenario.
Oh yeah.
I thought
the
that
watching
too.
from the door frame. The concept of watching from the door frame. It's such a very peculiar and like eerie sensation,
Right.
but that we've found it attributable many times to the entity identified as Hat Man. So it's one of those things where it's like he saw somebody all in black, in an entire shadow, standing outside the door, watching. And that is a fascinating thing, because even your boyfriend saw a shadow figure pass through the door, across the door frame, headed towards the bedroom, still staying on the outskirts, on the thresholds, the outer thresholds of any doorway. Which plays into a lot of different superstitions, by the way. There's a lot of people who believe that actual archways and doorways keep you protected.
Right.
Keep spirits can't actually cross that threshold without invitation or connection. So interesting. I'm very interested in the stories, but I do think that it sounds like you're just resonating.
Absolutely.
I think I'm voting for Hag instead of Hat Man.
Well,
Because she even said it felt like he was undergoing sleep paralysis.
oh, well, yeah. I mean,
But Hat Man is actually a part of sleep paralysis too.
What?
Yeah.
What?
Yes.
Yes.
Hat Man sides hag. So the difference between a hag and like the processes is that the hag approaches you.
Yeah, attacks.
It climbs on you. A lot of people will feel the pressure on their chests.
Yeah.
And being pushed into the bed. Whereas the figure in the corner that doesn't move, or the figure outside the door. And I'm not saying that that's Hat Man. I'm saying that that's a watcher versus a doer.
Right.
A hag is interactive, whereas a watcher seems to exclusively watch for whatever reason. And I almost think that in hag sleep paralysis, it's oftentimes the figure first, then the notice that they can't move.
Right.
Versus noticing you can't move and then looking and seeing a figure. It's I feel something on me and I can't move.
Exactly. Yeah, hags are tricky creatures. And now, granted, hags can be generational as well. So,
Absolutely.
it's not impossible.
Yeah.
That it could be something like that. But
Sure.
yeah, I think I'm a little bit more inclined that it might be an entity in the realm of the Hat Man.
Yeah, I call them watchers. The reason why I said Hat Man was just because that's something that we've talked about
For
a lot.
simplicity's sake, yeah.
For simplicity's sake. But I think there are watchers. Watchers being spirits that are oftentimes either outside your house, like looking through the window, outside the threshold of a door, looking through the doorway. And they generally cannot approach. And I don't know why. I have no answer to that. I just know that there are certain entities that seem to be confined to the other side of the threshold.
Absolutely. Well, Well, thank you guys so much for sending in your ghost mail. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you have a ghost story that you want to send us, go ahead and send it to ghostmail@hauntedcitypodcast.com. Also, if you have questions, you can utilize our Q&A button on TikTok for our Q&A segment. But if you don't have TikTok, that's totally fine. You can send it over at Ghostmail as well. Just put questions in the subject line. But with that, my name is Madison Timmons.
I'm Chris Susi.
And stay spooky, y'all.